Hello, and welcome to the 91 podcast, the show where we dig deep into people's passions with the hope to educate, encourage, and inspire you. On today's episode, we have a man who has over 20 years industry experience in human resources. He has also occupied key HR positions in several multinational companies. He has also done extensive research into the HR industry in Nigeria and across Africa. He's none other than Dr. John Opute. Welcome, Dr. Opute.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure being here with you.
We're so happy to have you in our studio today.
Same here.
My first question is, why are you so interested in human resources? What's so exciting about it? You spent several years of your life digging deeper into human resources, studying it, exploring it. What's so interesting about it? Why?
What is interesting about human resource management is that it's something that has to do with real life. Real life. So there are people and you see them, you can feel them, you can support them, you can help them. And I found out that I was always drifting to want to help, to want to support people. I wasn't too keen on playing with cars, with playing with tools. I was much more interested in wanting to get to know people. So I thought, hang on, perhaps this is where I have a passion for my life. So when I got into university, I kept on seeing myself drifting into human resource management. Even when I started with a management degree, I ended up drifting off to HR. So that's really been the attraction all these years.
So you love HR because you love people.
That is correct.
You love trying to help people.
That is correct. That is correct.
So I noticed that you've done several, academic publications on human resource management, particularly in Africa. And also you've also, been physically, a HR manager in Africa, specifically Nigeria.
That's correct.
What were your experiences like working in Nigeria as a human resource manager?
Working in Nigeria, for me, was fun because it meant you had to be real. Okay.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you have to be real, it means you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. Let me tell you, for example, I found myself in a situation where I try to convince the employees that whatever I got for you, I got for myself. And it was a very, very strong weapon. What do I mean by that? If I'm negotiating a compensation or remuneration or emolument or pay and rewards, they mean the same thing. Forget about all these academicians, okay? They mean the same thing. They just mean money in your pocket.
Yeah.
So whenever I was doing anything like that, I said to the trade unions, do you think I will get less? If I succeeded in achieving 10% increase, 15% increase, 20% increase, what makes you think I'll get less? And if they came to the realization you meant what you were doing and you meant what you say, whenever you sat down on the negotiation table, you sent a message. I wasn't going to get less. So that's what I mean by being real.
Do you have any other experiences, working in HR in Nigeria?
Working with trade unions was fun. So not only was I involved in systems, when I say systems, HR systems, stuff like, having job evaluation, okay, having appraisal, okay, having recruitment, having succession plan. These are all systems, okay? And I really mean systems because you really need to have systems in place, okay? HR is not just managing people. You've got to manage them properly from beginning to the scratch, including exits, separations, and you've got to put proper systems in place. But there's one other system that is very, very important. In fact, is overriding.
What system is that?
Trade unions. You may be successful in your appraisal. You may be successful in your appraisals, your job evaluation, your trade and development, and name it. If you fail in trade unionism, in managing people, in relating with the trade unions, you failed everything else. Why? It is what brings stability in the industry. Can you imagine having a strike every week?
We do have a lot of strikes in Nigeria.
Of course.
A lot of strikes.
Of course. You know what? Those days, whenever I had the opportunity to recruit someone, I was head of HRO, so I was looking after HRO for the group. So whenever I had the opportunity to recruit HRO managers, one question I asked at interviews, and most people fell into that trap, I would say, how much strike actions did you manage in your company? And some people say, I managed 10 successfully. No. Once you got up to 10, you were not successful.
How did you have up to 10?
So you know what I look for?
What? Zero. Zero strikes.
Zero. It's possible.
How?
Be real. Say what you mean and mean what you say. I never went to the negotiation table with a mandate with the hope that I want to go back to the managing director and say, you asked me to let out 20,000 naira. I came back. I was unable to give them 10,000 naira, 10,000 naira back to the company. Nope. If it was 20,000 naira, it's going to be 20,000 naira or more. See, these things get known. They know. People know whether you are playing games or not. So managing trade union, having a relationship with the trade union, I repeat, anywhere in the world is a game changer.
It seems like you have knowledge of trade unions. So what advice would you give? Like in Nigeria right now, there are a lot of strikes continually. There's this strike with teachers, there's this strike with, medical professionals. What advice would you give, to stop these strikes?
Put the human back in human resources. Put the human back in human resources. They've taken away the human in human resources, and they just call it human resources. I'm human resource manager. I'm human resource manager. Do you have human in your human resource manager definition?
Humanity.
Do you have that? See, I tell you something, and I say it to anybody who cares to listen. You've got to have a strategy on how to have a relationship with trade unions. And these things are simple. I'll tell you just one simple one. Collective agreements are not signed on the negotiation table. Collective agreements, they are not signed on the negotiation table. But they are signed there. But what I'm really saying is, you get that agreement before you come to the table. How do you do that? Do you think of having a retreat with your trade union leaders? And as such retreats, in a nice place, you play games, you have competition. Senior management with middle management with junior staff. They will look forward. It's bonding extraordinary. We will attend MD, general manager. They come in their jeans trousers. We are playing games. We go to the cafeteria. We sit together, not managing director sitting somewhere and next to him is GM. No. In fact, if I see a GM sitting next to a finance director, I will signal you. You got it wrong. Change your seat. It's a time to bond. And then you would get every key officer make a presentation to the house. You talk about your difficulties. You talk about where you are. You talk about where you are going. They ask you questions. You are open. The production manager is there. The engineering manager is there. The engineering manager will explain what it means if we do not work for 2 days, the impact on the bottom line. The finance director will explain what it means if we don't make profit. He will explain that lorries driving out of the company with products does not mean profit. It's sales. it still gets translated to deductions out of it. So what am I saying? You send that message to them in a platform where people are open. They ask you questions. You tell them the truth, where you are going, your difficulties. Do you think when you sit down with these people that you told you lost 40 million and this is what you are trying to recoup the 40 million, do you think they'll be asking you to increase their pay by another 100%?
No, because they know it's affecting everybody.
Because you've explained where you are, where you want to be, and what you expect from them. And you do that every year non-stop. When you go down and sit down and negotiate, you've already got them to your side already, haven't you? How many companies do that?
I don't think.
We're up there in our high horses. They see you fly first class.
Or guy is separate from the person at the bottom.
Must you fly first class every time you travel? Even when you know the company is having a tough time?
No.
Must you? You don't have to.
Because it will even frustrate the workers. Because they're wondering, see, you can afford this.
That's right.
You know, me, I can't afford anything.
That's right. So we send the wrong signals. We don't get them to be part of us. We wait until when it's time to negotiate and then we want them to be part of us. You got it wrong. It won't work.
How do you think, with what's happening in Nigeria now, people not being able to, afford to drive down to work and everything, what do you think, human resources can do to try and make work life easier for Nigerians going through this tough time?
If any human resource manager is listening, I think they may be listening, anywhere in the world, actually, doesn't really matter. Don't let your relationship be guided by the duration of the collective agreement. Don't. So you have a collective agreement that says transport allowance is X amount, is due for negotiation in another 2 years. And people are suffering. You are waiting for that agreement to expire before you call them to sit down. Be proactive. See, I'm not trying to show off. During the days we had fuel crisis, when it was difficult to come to work with the same amount of money, the employees would come to the office one morning and they will see on the notice board, finance for, transport support.
Oh, we're giving transport.
Everybody, there's an increase of maybe 20 naira, 100 naira, 1,000 naira for your transport allowance. That item is an item for collective bargaining. Take note. It's not due for renegotiation yet. But what are you doing? You are not waiting for that. Some HR managers say, well, my hands are tied.
They can't do it.
My hands are tied. Just wait for the next. Are you all right? And then your driver would pay 4 times the amount of money to come pick Oga from home. Oga is driving a company car, doesn't know what fuel costs. Sits down reading newspaper, he or she is driven to the office. But you're not asking yourself, the driver that came to pick me, what happened to the transport cost? So those are the things. See, look, if you send the signal, like I keep on saying, put the human in human resources.
Yeah.
Okay? I think I should be writing a book on that. Put the humans.
I hope you give me a percentage.
Let's talk about that at the end of the show. Put the human in human resources. So these guys are watching. There's no way you're going to send that caring message to the employee and they will not come stand by you at your time of need. They will. And then what about our lifestyle? Send a signal. Let them see that, you used to fly first class. Your secretary is going to book these tickets. They know what's going on. They know. The PA will book the tickets. Do you know what? Oga said economy. Oga said, I used to work in a company. And I remember the language of what used to be my MD then. He will go to the secretary. Have you got the ticket? The secretary will say, yes, but I think I'm having problem. They don't seem to have a first class. Cancel the flight. Cancel it. It's got to be first class.
Because it's not first class.
Cancel it.
I don't understand.
You had me. Cancel it.
Well, his own money is easy now, not company.
It's not his money, it's company money. Cancel it. Anyway, so what am I saying? What I'm saying is, it is possible to get the employees to your side, but you have role to play. Every human resource manager, put the human in human resources.
Can you give us just a few more tips of, what can be done anyway to put the human in human resources? What else they can do to make life easier for workers?
The other thing they could do to make life easier, there are some industries where you could also begin to cut down on how often they should come to the office, because every little helps.
Yeah.
Every little helps. So should they be there Monday to Friday? Do you have company buses? Can you invest on that and pick people at strategic locations during this period? Do you want to do that? It's possible. Do you want to provide some subsidized meal within the plant, like meal subsidy? So if you had a canteen, say, you know what, for the next 3 months, eat free. I'm serious. Eat free.
So some people can't even afford food right
That's
now.
right. I know that during our days, the average employee came to do overtime, not necessarily because of the extra money, but because of the meal that they. Yes. Get doctors to come to the clinic. You don't have to have a big building to have a clinic. What does a doctor need? It's not the consulting room, right? Get a doctor that will come maybe 3 times a week in the evenings, 4 to 6. Retainer, how much will it cost? Let them see employees who have little basic things, like maybe what they really need is, just not complicated ailment, but it's helping them. Can you imagine what it will mean for them to now go to the hospital, go and queue up, get some medication, end up getting drugs that you don't even know the source? So during our days, long time now, we had doctors who came to the infirmary, every evening, for an hour or two, just to consult. So employees who have issues.
For free?
Of course, for free. I mean, we have the doctors on retainer, retainer fee, and there's also a nurse who is there to dispense medication.
Or
drugs.
free medicine.
Yeah, drugs that got from reputable, pharmacies, and it's just being proactive. It's just one more help in difficult times.
And it'll make them loyal to the work also, because they feel that you care about them, you care about their health.
When they say people stick to an employer for a long time, it's not just money. There are other things that money can't buy.
That's true. Wow. And you came up with that idea?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. It's being proactive. You've got to say to yourself, what can we do? Don't wait until they ask.
Oh, wow.
If you come home and you meet a fantastic present from your husband, surprise, it makes you feel wonderful and special, wouldn't it?
Makes you feel valued.
Yeah, so if the only time you get something is on your birthday, come on, do something different.
And the funny thing is, something I've noticed I know it sounds bad, but even from working, as a business with Nigerians, something I've noticed is that they don't really value people that work for them. I'm not speaking generally about all Nigerians, but there's this sort of attitude. If you work for me, it's almost like you're meant to do this. I can call you on a Saturday. I can call you, in the evening. I can call you on Sunday, because you've done work for me, so you're meant to just do what I want you to do. So I don't know if it's a cultural thing with Nigerians. I notice we just have this attitude when people work for us. If someone is your plumber, you treat them anyhow. If somebody is your housemaid, you treat them anyhow. You even shout at them, even make them do things that they were not even employed to do. So I don't know, is it a cultural thing? Because I noticed that even in your book you cover cultural issues when it comes to human resources in Nigeria or Africa.
It goes beyond culture. You can't ignore culture. I mean, what is culture? The way we do things. Okay, that's layman's definition of culture. But it goes beyond culture. I think the key thing is the difficulty with getting something to do.
What do you mean?
So there are no jobs there.
Mm.
So you treat those you have the way you like.
Because they should feel blessed and lucky that you
That's
employed
right.
them as
That's right.
the house girl or plumber.
That's right. I mean, I remember once that, I did some consulting for, a company after I'd left my regular job. And we advertised for vacancy. The letter box, the post office was calling every day. Applications upon applications upon applications. There are too many people chasing very few jobs. And that is why people, managers, managing directors, chief executives, who don't have human in their human resources, I keep saying that, will treat them anyhow because the people are just over there looking for this job.
Desperate people.
And that is why they get it wrong. The reason they get it wrong is those people are staying there for the money, not for the commitment they want to put in the organization. And at the end, who loses? The organization.
Wow, I never really thought of it that way. Yeah. There are few jobs, so any job you have,
keep it.
Treat
Grab
you
it.
anyhow.
Yeah,
because you will never want to let go of
you
the
are
job.
not likely to
even
get
if I
another
insult
one. So
you.
just grab it, hold it firmly.
Even if I insult, even if I slap you, at
Hold
work,
it firmly.
Oh, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
So, in your book, HRM Africa, you talk about several challenges that we face in Nigeria, human resources. Can you give us some examples of some other challenges that we face?
We face challenges, particularly with trade unions.
I think you mentioned that one already, yeah.
That is a big challenge. And the reason that challenge keeps recurring is because we are a collectivist society where people want to come together, fight for a common purpose, unlike individualistic societies where people say, I don't need you. I'm happy to fight for what I want. If I don't get it, I walk away. But with developing countries, they tend to want to rely on trade unions. And I've had cases where I have been told, not to sleep at home by those who think they are my friends, that they are coming for you because
a threat.
Yeah, they're coming for you because
life.
they're coming for you because you are being difficult. You would think I'm a nice guy from what I've said so far, isn't it? We're coming for you. So those are some of the challenges. We're coming for you. The reason for that is there will still be some die-hard leaders. One of the greatest days of joy for me in my function was the day I walked through the plant several years ago, and I saw Opute is bad. Placards, sorry, not placards, writing all over the world. Opute is bad, Opute is bad, Opute is bad. Who is good? I said, wow. So there are people within the workforce who still think I'm a nice guy. They know. See, look, when you're under pressure, sometimes you throw away your reasoning. And sometimes remember that there may be leaders that are very, very influential, and they can influence even the sensible ones amongst them. So those are difficulties. I've come out of my car. I've come out of the office before, and I've found a sacrifice on my car.
So when you say sacrifice, what exactly what was it? What did it look like?
Those who are, if you've lived in Nigeria, you know that there's all these fetish beliefs that when you put sacrifices at junctions, you are sorted. And when you put sacrifices, somewhere, they have some effect. Those are people who believe in all this stuff, okay. It didn't bother me, but can you imagine coming out of the office and then you find something, some oil, some egg, some dead stuff on top of your car, nicely kept nicely there.
Wow.
Yeah, because there may be one or two people who still don't like your face, who don't believe you, no matter what you do. They just don't believe you. But it's just that after a while, the truth comes out. You know what I did?
What did you do?
I just came out. Apparently, they were waiting for me. I came out because the head office was close to the factory, and the factory boys are not the best group of people. And they said, "Oh, here he is, 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 here he is." So I came out and they were all there. They had the shift had just closed, you know. I said, "Lock the gate, lock the gate, lock the gate."
Weren't you scared?
So they told my driver, "If you go close to that car, so they told my driver to stay away. So I said, let's talk. He said, yeah, he wants to talk to us. He wants to talk to us. So I said, before we talk, let's do our traditional salutation. Somebody give me bossa! Bossa! Somebody give me bossa! I'd already captured them. So tempers were calm. And I say this to every human resource manager. Whenever you have a disagreement, don't leave the table without agreeing a date to reconvene. Even if you are not sure the matter is going to be resolved, always agree a date to reconvene. It's a strong weapon for you. Don't get upset and walk out of the negotiation table. I call it leave a window open. Leave a window open, because on a tough day, that will be your escape route. I said to them, "But why are you people upset? We agreed to meet next week Tuesday. Hopefully it will be resolved. Is that not true? Now ask your leaders. Ask your leaders. Didn't we agree we're going to meet next week Tuesday?" They say, "Oh, yes. Oh, is it true? Ask them. We just had a disagreement, but it's not all over. I'd agreed I'll consult with management. Ask them." You can imagine if I had no answer to give. You can imagine if there was nothing for me to say, we are still going to meet. So why are you upset? We still have, the window is still not closed. And that was what saved me. They said, "Oh." And I said, as I said earlier on, I said, "Remember, if we achieve 20% increase, I will not get less than 20% increase. Remember, don't forget."
Wow.
"Oga, open the gate for him." Driver, go and drive Oga home. Done. Simple.
And they remove the sacrifice, right?
Of course. Just because I set myself up again. Remember? I set myself up because I said, we're meeting again. It's not all over, so why? I didn't say in another 1 month, in another week. These things work sometimes. Maybe not always, but at least try that. It could work. It could work. So those are the challenges, some of the challenges. Of course, I have lots and lots of stories. But and I'll tell you one final one that is the biggest one. Well, I shouldn't say the biggest one. You can't be a human resource manager without putting human in the human resource. I keep repeating that. Several years ago, we were sitting in the boardroom, trying to sign off, we had reached agreement on every single thing except one item called death benefit. And traditionally, you don't exceed your mandate. So what do I mean by mandate? When you go negotiate, you have a mandate, meaning a maximum amount you should not exceed. That comes from the chief executive or from the senior management. They say for transport allowance, this is what you get. For salary increase, is that percent. For that, is that amount. For that, death benefits, that amount. Transport, that. Housing, that. So I had all those mandates. So we had made success, big success. But we couldn't agree on death benefits. And this was 10 p.m. And there was no cell phone then. So I couldn't even call the GM to say, "Hey, we are stuck here. Can I go slightly above the mandate?"
Or even tell your wife that you're still at work.
But you're not allowed to go beyond the mandate. Are you okay? Go beyond the mandate? No way. If the unions don't want it, tough luck. But they said we're not going to leave the boardroom. They said we were all going to sleep in that boardroom if we didn't sign it.
By fire, by force.
So I said to myself, death benefit. Hang on. How many people die in this company every year? How many people died last year? 0. How many people has died this year so far? 0. I said to myself, John Opute, sign the damn thing. How many people have died? So even if you increase the death benefit by another 5,000 naira or 10,000 naira or 20,000 naira, those things was a lot of money.
Yeah.
So be it. So we signed the agreement, took a risk. You've got to think beyond the box. Put the human in human resources. And I reported to the general manager the following day that he said, oh, you exceeded the mandate? He said, but you could have just shut the negotiation and then asked for maybe a quick, reconvene again. And I said, but they said we're not going to leave the boardroom. Anyway, so he said he was traveling to Lagos. And this was in Port Harcourt, River State. He said he was traveling to Lagos and, he was going to present the collective agreement we had signed to the managing director, So I said, fine. So he took whatever this collective agreement was with all what we had signed, including my famous death benefit that had exceeded the mandate. And then, of course, he came back 2 days after and sent for me.
So you're in trouble.
I said, oh my God. So anyway, I was still very young then, so I couldn't do. I wasn't too troubled with whether I was going to lose my job. It wasn't too difficult getting a job those days. So I said, well, let's see what happens. So I said, well, so I presented your collective agreement, I presented the agreement you signed with the trade unions. And the chairman and chief executive sent me back with a letter for you. You want me to give you your letter? I said, why not? He gave me a letter.
What's that said?
I was promoted.
Wow.
He said that is the kind of human resources manager the group needed. So I was appointed group human resources manager for the entire group in Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
I was less than 30 years old. No, hang on. Okay, let's forget about the age. I was young. Much younger than I am now. So that was promotion for having done something that seemed crazy. Said, that is the kind of human resource manager we need in this group. So I was promoted. I became group human resource manager for the group.
Wow.
For the entire group in Nigeria.
From your experience working with people from different backgrounds and, looking at human resources in different continents, what is unique about human resources in Nigeria?
I don't want to appear derogative, but we still have literacy problem. You still have, manufacturing plants. Okay, in the developed world, it's much more of service. Manufacturing is carefully being replaced by service. But even when you have manufacturing, you still have high tech. You still have people who are very knowledgeable, very educated, and all the rest. Okay, you still have people who still depend on the trade unions to be able to reason. So that still remains a challenge. It's changing gradually, but it still remains a challenge because of our literacy problem. Most of those who work in the factory are not very, very educated. So they still don't believe you when you say, go and read the annual account. Don't mind them, not be the right term, They still don't believe that it represents the truth. But it is. It's the truth. It's a quoted company. They're not going to mess around with the annual accounts. But how many of them read it? So there's still that illiteracy issue. And there's also that mentality of just following the leader without questioning the leader. So they are likely going to believe whatever the trade union tells them, as opposed to questioning the trade unions.
To see there's proof.
Yeah. And let me give you an example. I think they still do it. That's what is called check-off system, where you pay dues to the trade unions. The company does the deduction every month from your pay, and they, transfer the money, hopefully, to the trade unions every month. Okay. But you have to check in. You have to contract in, meaning you have to sign to say that, I don't know of anybody who has said they don't want to be part of the trade unions because you'll be a black sheep. You will. So what am I trying to say? Everybody wants to be loyal to the leadership because of that belief that if we're together, we are stronger. It is true, but also what it means is that unnecessary power rests before the leadership of the unions in most places. I'm a firm supporter of trade unionism, certainly I do, but we should be able to hold our leaders, we should be able to, they should be accountable, we should be able to get them. They should be able to explain to us why they want to do what they want to do. They should be able to convince us why we must down tools. They must convince us. We shouldn't just say, let's down tools. Who said it? The president, let's down tools. No. We should be able to say to them, can we hear the side of management? Why should we down tools? So that feeling, that mentality of just follow the leader is still a challenge in many developing countries.
So you have so much knowledge when it comes to trade unions, and you've spoken a lot about Africa and especially Nigeria. But let's talk about the UK now. How, in your opinion, do you feel that the UK government has handled, their relationship with the trade unions, with inflation and strikes, everything that's been going on? Do you feel the UK government has handled things properly?
They can do better, certainly. One of the things I learned when I came in here, it's when I got my first pay increase, and I think it was something like 2% or something. And I said, what is this?
2%.
And I said, well, it's inflation. Okay, makes sense. Inflation, all right. In other words, the increase, is meant to be tied to inflation. Makes perfect sense. But you see, that same argument is what the unions are holding against the government. Because the unions are saying inflation is gone up to 17%. I don't know what it is. Don't want to be misquoted. But the government is still far, far from reaching out to inflation rates in terms of increase. So unfortunately, there was too much reliance on inflation rate as the key factor of deciding, increases or emoluments for employees. No. I was once invited to a conference that was organized by International Labour and Employment Relations in Sweden. And I sent in my abstract, and my abstract was lessons for developing economies lessons from developed economies. Okay, lessons developed economies can pick up from developing economies in terms of employee relations. There are lessons to be learned. We're not. I mean, there are lessons to be learned. So we didn't, when I say we, when I was involved in human resource management, we didn't make inflation the only condition for deciding how far increase we were going to go. We looked at other things. To decide on what makes sense. Is it going to be inflation-led? That's going to make sense. There are other things. Okay? Is the inflation galloping or not? Because if it's galloping, it says a completely different perspective. Okay? Now, will the increase actually address the socioeconomic challenges if we do? I'm not saying that the UK government should give 17% or 20% increase to match with inflation. I'm not saying that. But they have unduly used that as a weapon in a negotiation, and it has caught up with the government. So government has got to now, from now onwards, I hope they've learned their lessons, from now onwards to begin to look beyond inflation as one of the indices they will use in sitting down and talking with trade unions. It has to go beyond that.
So what other indices can they use apart from inflation?
What's happening to the economy in general? Okay, you may say it's inflation. Okay, what's happening to the jobs? Are jobs all over there? Can people pick up jobs? Okay, what's happening in terms of people coming into the UK and leaving the UK? Are they coming to the UK because there are jobs? Are they living in the UK because there are better jobs somewhere else? Okay, why are people leaving to take up positions in other parts of the developed world other than the UK? What's the reason? There are a number of things that should be taken into account. What is the relationship with the trade unions? Okay, do we send in a message that we are also making sacrifices in terms of our lifestyle as leaders? I mean, the trade unions have got to see all of that. Okay, because if all of these things are wrapped in, then it becomes easy, to have a listening ear, to the trade unions. And why would we encourage the transport for London employees to go on strike because they want an increase in P time? We're not able to. Is it we time rather?
Wow.
So we're not able to agree. All kinds of stuff that really shouldn't.
So I didn't even know that was the reason for strike.
There was some strike once on we want the
increase in wheat time.
Increase in wheat time. I wanted to put the reach an agreement on that, or maybe a driver is suspended or dismissed because. See, I never allowed any employee to leave the company and not be paid anything, no matter how crazy the offense was. Because going to court in and out is not worth the trouble. So there are a number of things the government has to look at in terms of beyond economic indices as the reason for deciding on how much increase can we give. Can we have some agreement that suggests that the company has not been doing very well? Okay, let's put economic indices aside. The company has not been doing well. It made a profit of 20 million last year. This year, it made a profit of 10 million. Can we begin to look at some of those factors as input towards deciding on how much increase we want to give? They wouldn't want the companies to collapse, because if the companies collapse, they'll have no place to work, isn't it? So we've got to look beyond that. Not just economic indices. No. Is the company profitable? So because you can't be paying crazy bonuses, to people who deserve to be paid bonuses anyway. You can't be making huge profits, and then you say, well, let's look at economic indices as a reason for how much we want to pay. No, it's difficult to convince them. You are not likely going to win that war, and that's why you see every single sector is planning to go on strike. And the reason is because they are saying, thank you very much, but it's not enough. It does not match the economic indices.
So you don't care about us enough, really?
No. It worked for you before. When it was whatever, you used it to your advantage. Now it's our turn. Let's use the economic indices as a basis for the increase. So it's 17%, it's 10%, it's 15%. Let's start talking about it from that point of view. It's lessons that have been learned, and I hope in our future approach towards negotiating with the unions that we will not just be unduly focusing on economic indices. How come you're asking for 20% increase? Economic indices is saying it's 2%, 3%. How come? And we pushed it. It worked. Now economic indices is 4 times that. and what we are offering is far from that. We shot ourselves in the foot. So when I used to negotiate with the employees, I had what I call, I don't know, maybe they would do something. I had what I call, you look at rent, you look at food of a family of 5 on the average will pay. I sent people to the market to find out what is happening, rent, transport, food, how much is a bag of rice, how much is a bag of curry, those basic things, what is a tuber of yam, and what was it 6 months ago, what is it now, what was it a year ago. So those were things that were taken into account in deciding on how much more was I going to recommend to management. So
you did so much work. Really, it took time to really understand because what people were going through.
Why would you? Because you've got to make a recommendation to management. What is the basis? Is this armchair style? It's not armchair style. You've got to have a reason for saying to your management, I think we should be looking at X amount of money increase. There is also something called affordability. So it's not just sufficient to talk about suggesting an increase to meet with inflation. When we do that, will we survive? That's what I was saying to the UK government. How profitable have we been as a company? Can we afford it? If we can afford it, then tough luck. Whatever indices you are going to use may not then work. Then it just then have to be, let's swim together. Otherwise, we are going to sink together.
There's been a rumor out there, not a rumor, but many people talk about, the introduction of AI and how it's going to take over many people's jobs. Is this something that's true and something that we should be afraid of?
I don't think it's something we should be afraid of. It can lead to efficiency.
How?
When you say AI, there are some extents of how it's defined. Okay. Okay, we have to be very, very careful because AI can also mean emotional intelligence. So I'm sure the AI you are referring to is not emotional intelligence.
Oh, no, AI, artificial intelligence.
You are talking about artificial intelligence, fine. So the whole essence is to try and get things done, through the corner way. So John Opute will look like John Opute, but it's not John Opute. Okay, so you can get me to be talking to the trade unions, whereas it's not me. So my voice is captured and I'm the one talking to the trade unions. It can be deceitful. If it's used with good intention, it's fine. But if it's used for deceit, then it's not right. But as far as I'm concerned, anything that is intended to replace a human being and to make a human being be like the person is not correct and it's not fair. Because it just means that you are trying to make me look like who I am not. Do you understand? So those are the challenges. If it is for the purposes of making things faster and better, if it's for the purpose of improving things, but if it is made with the intention of making me look like I am the one and I'm not the one, it is not correct. For example, I like singing. So if you frame it so that I sing the song that I sang before, maybe not too bad if I can charge you, okay? Not too bad. But if you now sing a song that I never sang and you make it look like I'm the one that sang it, it's wrong. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to the extent that, depending on how far you want to go, copy and make it look like is the one, maybe okay. But when you now make it look like it's me and not me, then that creates a problem. If you make me look like I'm delivering a lecture, as John Opute, on a lecture I delivered before, and for the sake of efficiency, maybe to make students feel comfortable, Then maybe they missed the class. You want to make it look like it's another John Opute repeating the same class. Fine. But if you go and issue a lecture that John Opute did not issue, that I never issued, then that is falsehood.
Yeah.
It's wrong. And that is the aspect of AI that I don't think will help us. Can you imagine having John Opute, like group HR manager, agreeing to some items on the negotiation table, using my voice, making it look like it's me, when in actual sense it's not me.
Imposter.
That's not correct.
So you've mentioned several things, especially in your book, that are done in HR management, in Nigeria. Things like giving Christmas gifts and all of that.
Yeah.
And are you saying that doing these things, these things in Nigeria is wrong? So, people taking Christmas gifts home or Christmas bonus, are you saying that these things are not proper?
Again, it goes back to sending the signal that we are a family. So I come home late every day. I'm not talking about me as head of HR or whatever, just as an employee. I come home late, struggle to get home before it's dark every day. But there's one day in the year where the company is rewarding long service. And the company says, come with your wife and children. We want to honor you. And that's a big party. And they call your name, Mr. Collins Okokoje. And you walk out. And your wife or your spouse, as the case may be, is watching you being honored. And your company does that, being honored. Your children are there being honored. And that's a small gift given to you for service period. That's good. Or you have a Christmas party or end of year party where it's not just staff, it's spouse and children. And the children have their own section, they have their own Father Christmas. And you are actually looking forward to that. Your family will recognize those difficult times. Your family will appreciate those hard times when you're not around. Because the company is showing you recognition. And maybe that long service award, they are giving you a big fridge, or they're giving you a big television, or something that is seen as useful to the entire family. Your family will appreciate that company. So these are some of the things that, proactive things, make the employee feel important. Extend it to his or her family. By the time you say to your spouse you are leaving that company, he's going to say, I hope you taught it well.
To see all the things that we'll be losing out on.
I hope you taught it well, because maybe Christmas, not only they give you 13th month, they even give you a package. Those days, rice, groundnut oil, chicken, And I'll say something that may sound funny. We used to look for a reason to give 14th pay. See, these things send an important message. We used to look for a reason to pay employees a 14th pay. We'll say that this is the year the company has been here for 15 years. Let's call it anniversary bonus for all employees.
Wow.
On top of your 13th pay, there's a 14th pay anniversary bonus. Okay? And some people don't tell their spouse about the 14th pay. So these are proactive things, folks. And these things are now much more important at these difficult times.
Yes. Well, it seems like this time people are trying to squeeze.
Now, if you made 200 million or you made 500 million profits last year, what is wrong if you make 300 million profit? What is wrong? What is wrong if you are doing that because part of the profit is going to employee welfare? What is wrong? The good days will come back. Putting the human in human resources.
Wow. So thank you so much for that, Dr. Opute. Can you just give us, just before we round up, give us 5 pointers, just advice to HR managers out there, especially Nigerian HR managers out there. Just 5 points on what they can do to retain their employees and make sure that employees feel valued and loved and want to work there in long term. Just 5 points. 5 tips.
First of all, I cannot underestimate the challenges HR managers are going now. So it's okay to talk, and they're saying, if only he knows what's going on here. So I do recognize that. But the first thing that I would say is make an effort. Okay, so that is very, very, very important. Just make an effort. No matter how small it is, make an effort. Choose something that may not be too much of a cost to the organization, but you should be seen as making an effort. That's number one. Number two, anything you can't continue, don't start. Don't start. It can be very, very devastating. So start in small things, but make sure you are consistent. The third thing is the trade unions are your friends. Okay? They're your friends. They're not your enemies. Work with them. They're your friends. Work with them. If you are truthful to them, at good times and bad times, they will stand by you. Okay? Don't aim at making sure that trade unions don't exist. You got it wrong. Don't. You may be faced with pressures depending on the kind of management you have. There are some managements that don't want to see trade unions, but at the end they will be losers because those people are the future of the company. Make friends with trade unions. I shared some of the tips of how to get them to see you. If you are open to them, they are likely going to remain with you. Okay? So, make friends with trade unions. Number 4, again, is let the employee see the company beyond himself. Bring in things that extends beyond the employee to the family. All these little things. End of service award, long service award, Christmas party, 13th pay, 14th pay if you can find it. Do those things. They go a long way, to help. And then the last one is, if you can, introduce a means where employees can be given opportunity to buy shares of the company.
Wow.
Because we did it. And give them loans. Make it sound funny. Give them loans. And what happens is, hopefully you will make profit. You begin to get back part of the loans they took from the profit. So the employee recognizes that if the company does well, he or she gets some more money. So these are just some of the things I can drop in as tips for the HR manager. And again, this is just been summarized as saying, think of what you can do.
Thank you very much. And just before we close, I'll just ask you 3 random questions. First question, what is your greatest achievement?
What is my greatest achievement in my function?
In life as a whole.
I think my greatest achievement is that I saw God in everything that I've done all my life. So I think my greatest achievement is the fact that I recognize God in all of what I've done. I see that as a very unique achievement. I had a place for God in my life, so, I've always loved to say that you can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. So I think I give that, And the second achievement is my family stood by me, because my wife never called me at any time and say, she never said, you know what, I think it's time to quit that job. neither did my children do that. I mean, it was tough. I mean, I know some days whenever I said I was going to work, they didn't know whether I was going to Abuja or Port Harcourt.
Wow.
Yeah, because going to work didn't mean I was going to Lagos to the office. No, it could just mean I was on my way to Abuja, on my way to Lagos, to wherever.
Wow.
So yeah, and I got that support from my wife and my children, and they were very, very understanding. So is that an achievement? Maybe it's an achievement in the sense that I think I must have done something to make them to add that to make it possible. Well, again, I think that's two. You want one more?
No, that's good. My second question.
Yeah.
My second question is, what's the most ridiculous experience you've had at work?
That's a good one. The most ridiculous experience I had at work was when I was sent a query to explain the extent of my culpability when I had a problem with my car. I can see the surprise on your face. I said it was.
You had a problem with your car and you're sent a query to explain.
Because I hated that experience. I had just changed job to another company within the group, and the story really was that they wanted me to take a break from HR. They felt that I had achieved everything, I'd made enough contribution. They said to me, do you want to be a super duper HR manager? Would you like to try something else in the company? I said, why not? Let's give HR a break. So I was to head the sales unit of a sister company, okay? Fortunately, this didn't last for more than 2 years. So, but it was felt that I was playing games with my car because I wanted a new car. Have you heard the word haters? There will always be haters anywhere. So they concocted this story and sold it to the expatriate head of the division, and so he sent me, because the mistake the company made really was when they advertised my relocation to this company, they shouldn't have said something like, at the end of my training I was going to take up a senior sales position. What did it mean? Head of sales in the entire group in Nigeria? Don't say things like that. So it was like, oh, so after the training he's going to get my job, or is it your job he's going to get, or is it my job he's going to get? So it was like, oh, we'll see what happens. So they made life difficult. So on one of such occasions, when I had to drive, because my driver wasn't around, and I was driving, my wife was somewhere in some other state in Nigeria, I was driving. And for anybody to imagine that I would mess up my car deliberately when I was driving from Port Harcourt to correct my name would be the craziest thing in the evening, because I had to abandon the car and I had to, sort out myself. And they said, "Oh, he knocked the engine." But then it was my car was due for change, and I reported that I sensed that there was some problem with the dashboard. Anyway, cut story short, so they sent me a query.
Wow.
And what annoyed me was not just me to explain my culpability, but I was being likened to a driver. Nothing wrong with being likened to a driver, but they said the last time a similar thing happened to a driver, he was fired. So I said to myself, oh my God.
I must have a bit.
Here I was, having sat down representing this big company, negotiating terms and conditions for managers, middle managers, junior staff, and I can't be trusted. I can now be likened to a driver because some group of people just want me out. And I said, no problem. I resigned. I resigned. That was the reply to the letter. I resigned. And of course, news flies. In the next 1 hour, message had got to the head office. John Opute has resigned from the company. What? What's the story? Anyway, I stayed on to become head of HR for the group in Nigeria, which meant that I did not go. But that was crazy. That was the most ridiculous experience I'd ever experienced all my life. But it's okay. Somebody was trying to put human in the human resources. They put it wrongly.
They took the human out.
They took it out.
My final question.
Is it final or the final or the final or what?
It might not be the final, but close to almost the final.
Okay, that's
I know
fine.
I've said final many times and it's not been the final.
That's fine. That's fine. That's allowed.
Okay, my last question.
Yeah.
What is your own definition of human resources? From all your years you've studied it, from everything you've seen about it, what do you now define human resources as in your own words?
Human resources is that function in the organization that attempts to manage people to get the best out of them for the benefit of the individual and at the company. So it's a win-win situation. So that is how I define it roughly. I mean, managing people to get the best out of them, so that the company in return can be prosperous. So it's a win-win situation. Okay, so you invest on people so they can give you the best, and then the company becomes the best. And what that does is it makes you an employer of choice, which is what any employer should aim to be. You should aim to be an employer of choice.
Thank you, Dr. Opute.
Such a pleasure.
So thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed that, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and of course share it with other people out there so they can receive the knowledge that we received today from Dr. John Opute. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day. Bye.